What's going on, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today as I take an advanced look at these books from Marvel Comics that are coming out on February 26th. So, please stay tuned. Okay, we got a lot to look at, so we're going to try to make this as quick as possible. And by we, I mean me. But before I get started, I'd like to say thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. And as mentioned, these books come out on February 26th. So let's go ahead and start with Invaders. Okay, here we have Invaders, Dead in the Water. This book retails for $17.99, and it is the 2018 series. So this is volume 2. Here's the cover to volume 1. It is written by Chip Zdarsky, and it's got artwork by Carlos Magno and Butch Guice. And some of you all may remember Butch Guice because he has been working in comics since, oh my goodness, the early 80s. I remember having mistaken him and Jackson Guice, and it turned out to be the same artist. And I remember arguing with my friends. I'm like, no, Jackson is the better artist. I thought they were brothers, and it turned out that they were the same artist. So I am an idiot. That's right. That's how I'm going to start this episode. So this is the kind of the modernization of the Invaders. So you have Namor, you have Captain America, Bucky, and the original Human Torch, the android Human Torch. And it's like a modernization of them in today's times. So the artwork is really nice, though. I was flipping through here. I just read and it looks like the Human Torch has gone through some changes in his outfit, but I guess they all look different, really. And by the way, this collects issues 7 through 12 of the Invader series by Zdarsky. Artwork without colors. You can see there's going to be guest stars later on, so that's cool, especially if you're familiar with the Invaders. Chip Zdarsky has not let me astray, though. He's a great writer. Next up is Legends of Marvel XMen. We've done the Legends of Marvel Spider-Man, where these old creators came back and started writing and drawing their characters they helped to mold throughout the years. So we're kicking it off with Wolverine Exit Wounds. There's a story in here by Larry Hama, and there's one by Chris Claremont. Larry Hama's takes place during the Weapon X years, and there's one in here by Sam Keith too. He writes and draws this fight with Venom. And the one by Chris Claremont, drawn by Salvador La Roca, takes place during the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries. One thing I didn't say is that this book retails for $15.99. It also collects the Alpha Flight True North one-shot, where you have creators like Jim Zub and Ed Brisson that come together to do a little anthology with our favorite Canadian heroes. Canadian heroes outside of Wolverine, of course. And then you have War Children, which is awesome, which is the reunion of Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz telling a New Mutants story during their phenomenal run. So this takes place, I want to say around issue probably 25, 26, if I were to place it. But really, it can be read at any time. And I love when they do things like this, where they go back and add to a story. It reminds me of the way with the idea behind X-Men Classics. Here are some variant covers for Wolverine Exit Wounds. And there's a little story back here, The Good Fight. It's written by Fabian Nicieza. And I think this one was originally in the Domino annual. Because we go back to this bathtub scene during, I think, New Mutants 99, when Cable and Domino are sharing a bathtub and he's thinking about his past. The book has 114 pages, by the way. And as far as extras, not really any, besides those variants in between the annual and New Mutants. So I guess, yes, there are some extras. Here we have Future Foundation. Sadly, I think it was just a mini-series, not an ongoing, and it retails for $15.99. And I say sadly because this is one that I was reading as it was coming out, and I really enjoyed it. Jeremy Whitley is the main writer on, actually he is the only writer on this book, and he is the one that did the writing on the, the Astonishing Wasp, I believe. My daughter would kill me if I couldn't remember, but yeah, she really liked that title. And he's joined by Will Robson, who has a very, I want to say, Nick Bradshaw kind of artwork to his art. It's very reminiscent of Nick Bradshaw, who was very reminiscent of Arthur Adams. So I really enjoy this story, mainly because it brought back a couple of characters that kind of were forgotten in the Marvel years, and I love when that happens. So you're guest starring Yondu, who now looks more like his Guardians of the Galaxy movie counterpart. You have the Future Foundation that was left, not really behind, but they were left in charge of collecting all the Molecule Man's particles during Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run. So I always love these characters during the Jonathan Hickman FF run. But it's just good to see Dragon Man again, and Alex, and he's reunited with his sister Julie, Bentley 23, Ardian Leech, and the Moloids, the Atlanteans. So it's always good to see them come back. This collects the 5-issue miniseries, by the way. And I was hoping that this would be an ongoing along with the FF, but sadly, no. Let's look at the extras here. So there's a couple of variants. The book, by the way, has 120 pages. And here's the rest of the variants. Like I said, this one really surprised me because there's a couple characters that return here that I hadn't seen in a few years, and I thought that Marvel had just forgotten about them. And here's a series that I thought was just a one-shot as part of War of the Realms, because it featured Angela, and I was like, well, it's going to be a miniseries. But no, this is Strikeforce. The book retails for $15.99, and it has 120 pages, and it features the character of Blade, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, because I also have the complete collection by Guggenheim, as he's forming his own, oh man, how do I put it, like, his own X-Force. Like, if you've heard me talk about X-Force, how they're like a Black Ops team for the XMen, this is more like a Black Ops team for maybe the Avengers, kind of like Secret Avengers. So it's got Winter Soldier, Captain Marvel, who's not Monica Rambeau, who's now going by Photon, or no, Spectrum, that's it. Angela, Spider-Woman, and Son of Satan up there, Hellstrom, and who I thought, and I got really excited when I saw the cover, thought was the Hood, but it's not the Hood. It's Wiccan. So it's kind of like a supernatural team, X-Force team. Yeah, there we go. A supernatural X-Force team, all led by Blade, who, as you all know, is a complete badass. So that's where I will leave this. And this one has a pretty cool little cameo by a character I hadn't seen in a while, too. Written by Teenie Howard, and most of the artwork is Herman Peralta. I'm going to hate skimming through this one because I have a lot to say about this. This is Marvel Monograph, the art of Arthur Adams. Retails for $19.99. And it's the art of Arthur Adams X-Men. A few years ago, they released a... Oh my gosh. Like, I've never seen this sketch before. This is the sketch to Classic X-Men #1. And a few years ago, they released a hardcover. It was the art of Arthur Adams Marvel. But this goes back to the beginnings with his X-Men run. Well, he didn't really have a run, but I know there's a lot of iconic images that people were like, oh my gosh, that's from Arthur Adams. Yes. He did a lot of the Asgardian stuff at the beginning, so with Annual #9 and then the New Mutants special. And then he talks about his long shot series with Ann Nesenti. And I love his long shot series. I really hope that we get this collected in some kind of X-Men omnibus, because it not only has artwork by him, or his pencils, but it also has inks by Whilce Portacio, who went on to draw Uncanny X-Men and is a phenomenal artist on his own. I'm not going to flip through everything, but it starts with that, and it goes and talks about his years doing the annuals and covers, and eventually we get to just him becoming a cover artist for Marvel. And actually, I want to say that this is the last thing he penciled for Marvel as far as like internal work, and that was Ultimate X. And my god, just look, can we look, I'm just gonna hold on. Now this is some of his early work right here, and yes, I know the inker helps like Terry Austin with details, but just look at the amount of details that and these are pages, these aren't covers. That's how amazing Arthur Adams is. And we still have him drawing covers, which is great because, you know, there are such a thing as a cover artist. I don't think, this is from the New Mutants, from the Dawn of X stuff. I haven't seen him draw Warlock in years. Here's his Deadpool covers. The only thing that was missing from here that I wish they would have kept is the, X Factor 41 and 42, which is where that character Alchemy premiered. And Alchemy returns in that Excalibur epic I showed on Sunday, the Curiouser and Curiouser epic. And that one's drawn by Joe Madureira, and I wish they had put the original artwork in here from Arthur Adams so you can compare and see what I was talking about, how alike they are. And I think I've talked enough about this. 112 pages, $19.99. And here's the spine to the Marvel Monograph, Arthur Adams X-Men. Here we have another miniseries by Jody Houser. This one retails for $15.99, and it collects the 5-issue miniseries Web of the Black Widow, written by Jody Houser and drawn by Stephen Mooney. And Jody Houser has written Faith, the Star Wars Age of the Republic, the first book that I showed back in January. It was a hardcover, Ages of the Republic Heroes. And I know that also some Dark Horse stuff, like, what was it? It was the Critical Role. That's what Maddie told me about. And then Stephen Mooney is the artist on this. And Stephen Mooney has drawn things like Angel. So this is a pretty unique little 5-issue miniseries. The book is 112 pages. It pretty much is Natasha being manipulated to turn against her friends. And there's, a lot of twists in here. So she goes through the chronological order of the way that she kind of met these people. So she goes through Iron Man, she goes through Hawkeye, Daredevil's in here, and then of course Winter Soldier, because they've had this close relationship lately. The book is only 5 issues. It's just a miniseries. Here's all the extras in the back. By the way, love that Lee Garbett variant cover. Yeah, there's Joe Chiodo. I don't know if that's Lee Garbett's new art style, but it reminds me a lot of Chris Bacalo. And here's the Chris Anka variant, and I cannot show the opposite page. Okay, so here is Wolverine, the Daughter of Wolverine. Retails for $15.99 and collects Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 9, the 2019 series. But last week, I went through this book, Tales Through the Marvel Universe, and I said that collected Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 9. Well, that collected the A and B story, and I guess this is known as the C story, because remember I said those were anthologies. And I love the way that these are done, because this is done the exact same way those were, where it starts off through the decades, like it starts off in the 40s, then we get to the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way into the present time. So I'm not going to really spoil anything. The book has 120 pages. It's written by Charles Soule, and the artwork is done by Pablo Siqueira and Dia Neves. And it's basically the story of how Wolverine may have a daughter. Spoilers, because of the cover. And I don't know if this character is ever going to come back. I do like the interesting thing behind her name, though. She reveals, well, not her real name, but what her people call her. And let's look in the back here for extras, because I think here are some of the variants. Some of the variants are also on the page ends of the books. And this is the second printing cover. Okay. Cannot wait to look at that book. But this one has 120 pages. And like I said, $15.99. It was a pretty quick read, and it's interesting. I love when they try to add all these new characters to Wolverine's life. And if anybody can do it, it's Wolverine. I mean, who else is going to have all these little bastard children besides a guy that's been around for well over 100 years? Dracula, that's who else, of course. Ironically, I'm talking about Blade, the complete collection. Retails for $34.99. There is a parental advisory in here, and that is mainly due to the violence. So this is written by Marc Guggenheim, and he is joined by Howard Chaykin. Marco Juvajeric, nope, sorry about that, does the covers. And this is the series that came out back in 2006. And there was a Civil War crossover, and actually, I think the Civil War crossover is this back cover here, this versus Wolverine. Yeah, this one here. So this collects all 12 issues of the 2006 miniseries. And then they also add in, and I love that they did this, the 2019 one-shot Wolverine versus Blade. So, Blade's one of these characters that hardly has any collected editions. I think there's a couple of other trade paperbacks, and this was previously released as a trade paperback. just showing off this Howard Chaykin artwork. I know there's some people that are hit and miss. I know some people think that he's gone the way of Frank Miller and just lost that particular art style that he had, but I think he's just morphed into something unique, or at least I think. Because I know at one time both him and Frank Miller had a very similar art style. And yes, this guy's artwork. Marco, he does the covers. Now the artwork and the cover for Wolverine versus Blade, it's all done by Dave Wilkes, still written by Guggenheim, but man, this artwork reminds me of Clayton Crane. Oh, dude, this is badass artwork. I love this stuff. And I did read this. You know, I never finished the Blade ongoing series, so I may go back and read that. But this was kick-ass. I really like this story. And I love the way that he draws Blade and Wolverine. Kind of reminds me of the Mortal Kombat character, Blade does. Let's look in the back here for extras, which I don't think there'll be that many. So there's a couple things. Here's a variant cover by Gabriel Delotto. The article on Blade, and afterword here by Marc Guggenheim. And then a couple unused cover sketches by Marko Juderjevic. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Why do I even try? But yes, this guy right here to supply the 12 covers. Last but certainly not least, Dawn of X Volume 2. By the way, one thing I didn't say is that some of these dates may change because of all the things going on in China and the printing and a lot of places being shut down. So keep that in mind. Maybe these might come out next week. Some of these, I don't know. This book retails for $17.99. And I did an overview of Dawn of X Volume 1, and I was showing you all how this is collected in here. And it collects the issues of X-Men, X-Force, Marauders, Excalibur, Fallen Angels, and New Mutants, all the number 2s. This volume has 172 pages, and you just saw that it retails for $17.99. Volume 1 had 276 pages, but it was also $24.99. And there's something that I want to point out here in the back. I don't want to flip too much through here in case you haven't read it. And someone had asked me in the comments, is this in reading order? And it's collected, at least these anthologies, in the suggested reading order. So you go from X-Men all the way to Excalibur number 2. It's not done in the way that they came out, but it's done in the chronological order that is suggested reading. Like I don't think you need to read one to enjoy the others, because there's also going to be trade paperbacks of X-Men and X-Force and Marauders. So it depends on the way that you want to collect them. Now, let's look in the back here for extras. By the way, loving New Mutants. I don't know if y'all have been keeping up with New Mutants and X-Force, but those are awesome. So one of my favorite things that they did with Volume 1 was add all the variant covers of the extras. But it looks like in this particular volume we have two variants, for Volume 2 of X-Men, 2 variants for Excalibur 2, 2 variants for New Mutants, and then 1 for X-Force and 1 for Fallen Angels. And I know there were more than that, if I'm not mistaken, right? Please let me know in those comments down below. Because that's part of the reason why I love Volume 1, is they collected every single one of the variants in the back. So again, this book has 172 pages, retails for $17.99. And along with all these books, comes out on February 26th. If you're interested in purchasing any of them, you can buy them from cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you Minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was it. That was the content of each book, the page count. You let me know down below which books you are picking up, which of these trades interests you. If you're picking up the Dawn of X trade paperbacks or hoping that they'll release some kind of omnibus later on, I have no idea. We've heard nothing yet about oversized hardcovers or omnis, and I'm sure it will be a while before we even do. Or if you're going to collect these by title, like X-Force trade paperback or X-Men trade paperback. I think it's a pretty unique way of collecting these, and I don't think I'm alone. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, the notifications button to let you know when our videos go live. And speaking of live, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we are doing Old Reader, New Reader, and we're talking about Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. We'd love for you to join us live for that. We're also giving away a $50 gift card to cheapgraphicnovels.com. So check out our sponsor, and that is open to international waters. Remember, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint.